Welcome to the Norris Group Real Estate Podcast, a show committed to bringing you insights from thought leaders shaping the real estate industry. In each episode, we'll dive into conversations with industry experts and local insiders, all aimed at helping you thrive in an ever-changing real estate market, continuing the legacy that Bruce Norris created, sharing valuable knowledge, and empowering you on your real estate journey. Whether you're a seasoned pro or a newcomer, this is your go-to source for insider tips, market trends, and success strategies. Here's your host, Craig Evans.
Welcome, everybody, to the Norris Group Real Estate Podcast. Today, we're doing our third edition of the Investor Club Roundtable, Roundup, whatever we want to call it. We have three awesome guests with us today. We have Larry French from the CVREIA, we have Dan from SDCIA, and we have Lisa from South REIA. So I'm going to give everybody the opportunity to introduce themselves, talk about your club a little bit, and then we'll get into the fun and interesting questions that I have for you guys today. So we'll go ladies first today. Lisa, tell us about who you are and your club.
Thank you so much for the opportunity, Joey. Yes, I'm Lisa Hoegler. I've been an investor for 23 years now, I guess since 2003. I started out my investing career in the Charlotte, North Carolina area, and I did a little bit of investing in Atlanta until the crash in 2008. And then after that, I moved back to my home state of California, and I live in the South Bay, in the Torrance areas where I founded South REIA. And part of why I wanted to start South REIA back then was because I had been very involved in REIAs on the East Coast or in the Southeast when I was investing out there. And I loved the camaraderie that the groups brought and how much education there was. And obviously back in the day, there wasn't as many places to get great education as there are now. So REIAs were just a foundational part of that. So I started South REIA in 2013. And our club had been steadily growing. During COVID, we actually did kind of take a step back in membership a little bit, but people have been returning since that time. And we try to focus on, initially when I started the club, we were working a lot with new investors, and we were, kind of working with flippers and things like that. But over the years, we've kind of progressed into more of a real estate finance, economics type of group instead. And so we have a lot of buy and hold investors in our market.
I'll get into that a little bit more because I have some very specific questions about that. But no, I'm glad you're talking about that. Larry, can you tell us about your club?
Yes. Hey, hi, everybody. So together with my wife, Janet, my name is Lawrence French, and I go by Larry. We took over the Coachella Valley Real Estate Investors Club about 15 years ago. 2010, and the person running it wasn't enjoying it, and it was something I wanted to do and start helping other investors. So we spent our first 11 years doing a traditional kind of format with a speaker comes in the evening. We meet at the Embassy Suites in Palm Desert. We specialize in the Coachella Valley and California, and for the last 5 years since COVID, we have transitioned to just a lunch meeting. So once a month, a whole gang of us get together at the Daily Grill in Palm Desert, and we talk about local real estate. We're very heavily focused on our local area is what we like to keep focused on.
Awesome. Dan, you're heading one of the oldest in Southern California. Can you tell us about SDCIA?
Oh, yeah, absolutely. Thanks for having me, Joey. So SDCIA became known to me in 2012, and I attended my first meeting in 2013, where I learned that the group has been around since 1976. So for those of you who know Bill Tan, he's been around a minute in the San Diego and LA area. He was president for 24 years, just before I got to join the board, and it's been quite a ride, and Bill still provides some ideas and mentorship along the way. So that's awesome. Thanks, Bill. So we've got a pretty large club and very active, a lot of classes. And we really focus on action, how to get people out there. And I think that's the best use of a REIA. So we don't really like the idea of a class where people sit and listen. We like the idea of an action group where people come in, they learn a skill, they go practice the skill, and then they come back to the rest of the group and say what they learned, what worked, what didn't, And so we try to keep on that rolling through as our theme is taking action.
I like it.
So one of the things I like to do is I like to open with an icebreaker. All right. So I want to ask everybody we'll go in reverse this time. Dan, what was the first car you ever owned?
First car I owned was a 1988 Honda Civic.
Oh, nice.
I drove that thing like I stole it through 320,000 miles.
Wow.
It wouldn't die. The body rusted off. It's a Minnesota car.
That's awesome.
And it wouldn't die.
Larry, what'd you drive?
1973 Datsun 510.
Datsun.
Oh, that's cool.
Let's see.
Yeah, I wish I had it now. It's a cute little cafe-looking racer car, but long time.
Yeah, people are not going to know what Datsun that turned into Nissan, but yeah. Lisa, what did you drive?
I have no idea what year this thing was, but it was old, and it was a Toyota Corolla, and it was blue. I remember that. And in my early years of driving, I actually had quite a few wrecks. I think in the first couple of years, I went through 6 cars. So I think that blue Toyota Corolla was the first one.
Yes. That was before you were living in the snowy areas too, right, Lisa?
That was out here, right here in Orange County.
So when I was getting ready to get a car, my dad, my cousin was a mechanic, and he would fix all these cars in East LA, and he had this cul-de-sac where it just parked all kinds of cars. And my dad always, growing up, it was like, well, I'll just have Ben give you a car. And he had this 64 convertible Firebird. And I was like, that's what I want. That's what I want. And when it came time for me to drive, he was like, no, I can't give that to him. And so I was like, all right, whatever. I just want a car. So I ended up with the lime green Opel. If you guys even know what that is.
Whoa.
Yeah. And
You're winning that one, Joey.
But it was so much fun because I didn't care about it. So like all my friends drove it. Like we called it Slimer, which like this group would know what Slimer is.
Yes.
But hey, can I borrow a Slimer? Yeah, sure. Just put some gas in it, So it was back in the day.
Those things were tanks, Joe. I remember correctly. Like they could withstand a beating, right?
Yes.
It's like, whoa.
All right.
Yeah,
So,
right when crumple zones didn't exist, right?
no, it's actually real metal. Yeah. So let's get into what the club does. So, Dan, let's start with when you first got involved with. I can't ask you, what it was like in the early days of the club because,
I wasn't born when the club was founded.
Yes. So when you first started, going to the club, what was the environment like? What kept you coming back?
Oh, so when I started going, we were still kind of feeling the effects pretty strong of 2008's downturn. And so very, very well attended. People trying to learn, trying to understand the market, and kind of with the sense of not knowing and what's next, right? So it was a hub for people to come together and not just education, but also support, it turned out. And I don't think anybody went there with that intention. But they ended up getting a lot more out of it. Yeah.
And Bruce was already doing the Christmas party every year already, right?
Yes, he was. Yes.
So Lisa, you started from scratch. So what were like the early days? Was it tough to get it going, or like were people just like, we got to get REIA down here?
Surprisingly, so LA South REIA is a chapter of National REIA, and at the time, National REIA was looking for more exposure in the California area. And so coming from very big clubs on the East Coast, REIAs were humongous out there. It wasn't uncommon to have a couple thousand people in your REIA. And I was, thought I'd be coming to an even bigger market, and there would be the club would be huge. And when I started the club in the South Bay, I realized that there were so many other options for investors to learn online, things like that, that I realized, okay, it was just going to be a smaller, more local club. And so we just kind of steadily kept growing, and a variety of, different investors would come. But I would say the majority of all the investors that have ever come through LA South REIA, and it's, been thousands at this point, they're all local to the South Bay. It is a very micro local type of club, and people who have ties or roots or live right in the South Bay area. So I have seen, I would say, especially in the last couple of years, like I said, it's different. It's totally different membership, but we might talk about that later.
Yeah. So Larry, how was it when you first took over?
So yeah, the person I took over from the club had never done a deal or really knew much about it. She founded it with the idea of, hey, if I create this club, I'll start learning. I'll surround myself with good people. Great idea. I respected her for that. And I went to her club and it was horrible. It was at a sushi restaurant in the bar, so none of us could hear. Also, the drinks were good. And that's when she said, I'm done with this. And I was like, I wasn't sure if it was something shoes I wanted to step into. And I did. And I was encouraged by a couple really smart folks that I know. And one of them, the guy said to me, he's like, well, you need to run the club in your area. And I said, well, why would I want to bother doing that? It sounds like a lot of work. He said, well, if you don't do it, I'm going to do it. And this guy was already running a club in San Diego, and he had one in Northern Cal where he worked or where he lived. And he was really going to do it. And so that got me motivated a little bit. And then another pal had mentioned to me, if nobody's going to crown you of like an expert in your area, let's say the South Bay or San Diego, or somebody really knows your area. But if you run the club, it kind of helps. And so I thought that made a lot of sense, to be able to person who helps bring people together, learn about the deals, and help spread real estate education for an area. It gave me instant credibility in a farm area that I was trying to develop. So for me personally, it helped a lot. And then we had wonderful speakers that came in and helped. We helped tons of people. So
you start becoming that connector, right?
Yeah, exactly.
And that's kind of what I'm learning from like all of the club owners and the presidents, is that you become the go-to when somebody needs something. You always know who they need. Yeah, and so
we were influencers before influencers were cool.
Yes. Now put that together. Let's get our TikTok going. Come on. So Larry, I'll stay with you. What is the current demographic? Like, what kind of investors are coming to the CVREIA?
So we literally had our lunch an hour and a half ago. So thank you guys for all being flexible with my time today too. I know we probably switched it around. So today it's a lunch, right? So we're small now, which is nice. There was about 16 of us there today, and I'd say 4 of them were new, never attended, and the other 12 or so had been once or twice, or some of them are there all the time. You'll get regulars that really do get value for showing up all the time. You'll also get some folks that'll just come by because they've got a project or their questions, or they happen to be in town. So regarding our demographic, Joey, the Coachella Valley has a lot of seasonal residents. Also, we're a tourist destination, a lot of second homes here, a lot of people, the local people come in, local tourists, we'll call them, will come in from San Diego, San Francisco, LA. And then we'll have out of area residents, like, Canadians in Colorado and Washington. So the club size changes a little bit. Right now we're near the end of the season. And so we'll shrink down a little bit as some of those second home buyer or users leave because it's getting hot. Like we hit 104 today.
It was 95 today when I walked. I still walk.
Yeah.
So Lisa, I know you're running a little bit different format nowadays. So how do you track that? Is it all Zoom or is it hybrid? Like, how do you know who's coming to your clubs?
Through the end of last year, we actually were still doing in-person meetings, and the size of the club, similar to Larry, we get between 20 and 30 now. That's down from, a high, which was maybe 7 or 8 years. Well, maybe not even that much, maybe 5 or 6 years ago, 100, 150 would come each month. So definitely a different demographic, more of the people who have been investing a while. And I decided this year to go online instead. And I said, let me give that a try, because I've been hearing from other club leaders around the country that was working out well for them. And it was also encouraging new people to come. And so I have seen that. I've seen an uptick in new folks coming and joining us online. It feels to me that the lower the barrier to entry, if somebody can just join, anonymously online and come sit in on one of your meetings, that seems to be what people are looking for these days. I could be wrong, but we're testing it out right now to see how that's working. And so far, it's been working well, and we've had, I think, even better participation. Once the meeting's over, we sit around and chat a little bit, kind of in an open forum, and that has actually worked out better than even my in-person meetings did from a networking perspective. So I'm liking what I'm seeing there, but I'm still trying to decide if I'm going to add on some in-person meetings as well. I'm still playing around with that and kind of would like to see the online number get to a certain place before I go back to in person.
So Dan, how are you guys running the club, and what's the demographic look like now?
Well, so how we're running the club, in addition to what I said earlier about our classes, we've got 5 or 6 classes. I'm trying to add 3 more by the end of the year, various topics. We have a main monthly meeting, and I think networking, aside from the education and support component, is the most important thing I can provide. And so we start our networking at 4:30, and our main speaker doesn't go, our program doesn't start until 7. So with that, we have a beautiful facility that we go to right on the water in San Diego, and we have dinner and drinks included in the ticket, so that people can come straight from work or whatever they were doing and just get in there and get busy. It is pretty affordable. So if you're a member and you register ahead of time, it's $20. So I think that's a pretty awesome deal to include food and drinks. So that runs till we have our main program, and we have a series of things we go through with our sponsors to celebrate them and show how they can provide value to our members. And then we have haves and wants, where people talk about the things they have or things they want, how they're trying to put deals together in front of the audience. 30-second pitch fest, basically. So our demographic these days, periodically when I'm starting the meeting, I like to say, hey, raise your hand if you're doing this or doing that. And it's been changing a little bit. ADUs are starting to pop up.
I was going to say, speaking of that, my next question was going to be, what's unique about, investing in your area? I'm going to ask everybody else, but so in San Diego, would you say that that's the most unique thing that
it's getting there. There's what really makes San Diego so unique and why ADUs are being driven is because we're encroached on by the desert, and
a little landlocked.
Yeah, super landlocked. Cleveland National Forest on one side, Mexico, the Pacific Ocean, which I never want to tangle with on the wrong way, and Camp Pendleton to the north. And there's this little sliver that squeaks out towards the northeast through Escondido and Temecula. And so there is no more land. You got to go either fill in the spots you got or go up. And so we're seeing a real dramatic push. In fact, I just changed over all my investments to ADU builds, if that tells you anything. Hopefully I'm not wrong.
So Larry, what's unique about investing in the Coachella Valley?
So we're really unique out here. Remember, I just was mentioning how we're a vacation destination. So our total population, there's 11 cities out here. Well, 9 cities and 2 unincorporated areas. If you add the population of those cities together, we're a little under 600,000 people total. So we're small. I mean, add Long Beach and maybe one other city, and you've got 600,000 people right there. Yeah, there you go. So we're relatively small. You get to know people here, which I like. That's been interesting, and sometimes you get to know them and they go away, and that's a good thing, or sometimes they keep showing up, and that's a good thing. We're relatively close to large markets, let's say like San Diego and Lisa, your market. So we will have out-of-area folks come in to work our markets. And there are a lot of talented people that do come in and work our markets, but we also see some people that don't understand the dynamics. We have a couple unique dynamics. One is, of course, the tourist buyer or the tourist client. The other is we have a large collection of mid-century modern homes that have extra value attached to them because they're original mid-century modern homes from the 50s and 60s. And sometimes those homes might be scattered right around next door to homes built in the 1970s in the similar square footage. And so we have seen folks get hurt because they don't understand some of the local dynamics. So we like to talk about that, make sure people understand some of those types of concepts. But that's been really unique. I mean, that's definitely something unique about us. Joey, really quick, you asked about demographics. I was thinking about it. Today we had 2 wholesalers. This is at about 15 people, 16 people. We had 2 wholesalers show up. We had one old-time guy investor who's not really doing anything. He's very well off, but he loves showing up and If the deal was right, he'd jump into it. We had 2 mortgage brokers. We had 1 real estate agent. Now, the mortgage brokers and this agent are investors too, but they are making a living doing that. And then about the other 8 of us are some form of remodeler or flipper. And then the final 2, I'd say, if you add it all up, haven't done anything and are excited to just learn. So they haven't really chosen a path. So that was kind of a split of who was there today.
So it's a good range.
Okay. It's a nice variety of folks. It's great when you get a variety of folks. Some professionals, some new. It's always cool.
So Lisa, what's unique about the South Bay?
I would say similar to Dan. So the South Bay area, if you're not familiar with it, I would easiest way to kind of describe it would be sort of south of LAX. That's the way I would categorize that, all the way down to maybe Long Beach area and everything in between. So we are definitely landlocked, like Dan mentioned, and there's just not a lot of room for new build opportunities. That said, right, there's a lot of interest in ADUs, and there's a lot of interest in teardowns and building higher density units, especially in the Redondo Beach area and the Beach Cities area. We have a lot of 10,000 square foot lots there, so you can tear those down and possibly build 3 units on that. So most of the new build work or the rehab work that's done in our area, I would say, is generally for sale. And a lot of the people who are investing to buy and hold, for example, they tend to be in the lower cost areas, maybe in the Long Beach area, maybe in Gardena, or out of the area entirely. So we don't get a lot of new builds and flip in our area specifically. There is some, obviously, because we have old housing stock, but we do see people, especially if they're interested in those rental units, they're kind of going to lower price point areas.
Are you close enough to have seen the impact of like SoFi and the new Clipper Arena, the areas around there, the development that's coming and come?
Yeah, that's actually right in what I would call the South Bay area as well. So those areas are pretty unique, and they were in pretty bad shape when all that renovation started. I would argue that from a real estate investment perspective, although people have been marketing all their properties, oh, we're a half mile from the stadium, or we're a quarter mile from the stadium, we really haven't seen enough development there that's trickled into the residential and the housing yet. There's obviously some, but it's not the parts that were developed and the parts that are still being developed. They've definitely turned over, but it hasn't necessarily raised their values very much, because what's bordering that whole stadium area is still 800 square foot, in most cases 100.
You're not getting $1 million Compton house?
No, and they're not. They still don't attract the highest quality tenant. So there's still some pretty rough areas around there. I mean, sure. Who knows where it'll be in 15 years, but it's not there yet.
So let me shift a little bit. Larry, I want to ask you this first. Now, you guys are just a luncheon, but do you still have a speaker? And if you do still have speakers, who's been the most dynamic speaker in the last 12 months that you've had?
So I don't have speakers, so I can't ask you that last question, but I can tell you a few great ones we've had over the last 15 years. The format of the club changed at COVID. I know, Lisa, you were saying kind of you had some changes a little bit, or you think of some changes at COVID too. So I didn't want to go online when things were shut down and run yet another club online. We all seemed to jump online at the time. So we just stopped. And when the restrictions were lifted, I turned it into a lunch. So I run this as a nonprofit. I've never had anybody have a product to sell, or if they do, I ask them not to talk about it. And I won't take any splits. Some of the people that run clubs as a business, they do the whole 50-50 thing. And so we never do that. There's no fee to go to our club. You just have to you don't even have to buy yourself lunch. We ask that you buy yourself lunch. So it's really the format it's in right now, Joey, is set up for something for the type of work I want to do, because I run it. So I'm comfortable spending the $400 or $500 meetup for meetup.com out of my own pocket. And other than that, that's just a loss. There's no money coming in. There's nothing. So that's kind of what it is. I guess I just host a lunch for people and say to show up and talk. And the format right now is I'll usually introduce everybody a little bit like you do, Dan, with the haves and wants. I will ask everybody to do a quick 30 seconds. And they never hang to 30 seconds, but that's fine. And 30 seconds, get to know everybody.
That goes for you too, huh?
Yeah, apparently, yes. After that, then I yak for about 15 to 20 minutes and try to hold the attention of the whole table. And it's difficult at a lunch because you have waiters. Remember, if you guys ever host lunch, if you're planning on lunches and you expect to hold attention, it's difficult. And the food's being placed. So usually the speaker is me trying to engage people in a current topic for the first 15 or 20 minutes. And then I even say this at the beginning, hey, we're gonna chat all together for the first 10, 15 minutes, 20 minutes. And then you're all going to talk to you're going to just chat with the people next to you. If the person next to you is boring, get your butt up and go sit to somebody next to you that you heard their haves and wants and you find interesting. So and I also tell everybody at the beginning of the meeting, the quality of the experience you're going to have here today is almost 100% dependent on your participation level. If you show up and sit down here for lunch and just wait for people to tell you and talk to you and teach you things, you're probably going to leave a little bored. But if you show up and you participate and you help the person next to you and you ask for their help, you might find this is valuable to you. So I encourage you to look at it that way. So that's what we do. Regarding great speakers, sorry for taking so much time, but I'll do this really fast. We invited Peter Aldana. He was, I don't know if he currently is, the Riverside County tax assessor, like the one that gets voted in by all us taxpayers. And he was super interesting. There's so much more to that role than we ever thought. And another really interesting person we had in was a gentleman named Robert Fay. And Robert Fay, he's since passed away. He helped create and build hundreds and hundreds of homes that are out here built on Indian land. So through the Palm Springs area, we have a checkerboard full of private fee land, and next door might be a square mile of Indian land that are owned by the local tribes. And they look the same because there could be a housing tract on the Indian land and a housing tract on the fee land. And it was really interesting to hear how all of that started, who owns the leases, how to negotiate with a tribe if you have to extend leases. And it was just a part of real estate I've never really heard or been learned from anybody else.
Yeah, that's what's really cool about all the clubs. You never know what nuggets or what takeaways you're going to go home with those nights. I remember going with Bruce and Aaron to your club and, going upstairs and hanging out. And it's always really interesting to see what you can come home with. Lisa, who would you say has been the most dynamic speaker that you've had in the last 12 months?
Similar. We don't have a lot of selling speakers. I might have one a year depending on the topic, but what I've found for myself is that there aren't as many speakers on the circuit anymore. And I find that because of the folks that are coming to LA South REIA, they're really interested in what's going on locally and the local market. And like I said, we talk about macroeconomics and things like that. So I don't have as many what I would call professional speakers anymore. I usually will invite people from the local community who are in real estate, whether it's wholesalers, whether it's, high performing realtors that are.
Somebody was killing it out there, right?
What that?
Somebody was killing it out there.
Somebody was killing it out there because they're feeling what's going on in the market as well. But one of my favorites, I actually have two favorites that I would always default to, especially for people who are learning. I love Anthony Chara. Anthony Chara teaches multifamily investing, and he is, in my opinion, he's one of the best instructors on that topic. He does just an amazing job with students, walking you from knowing nothing all the way through buying your first multiplex. So he's always been one of my favorites. And I actually did have him had him come talk to the group within the last year. He was my only, outside speaker like that. And then another one that I always like, I don't know that he speaks as much anymore, but maybe his company still does, is George Antone with the finance company. And George is what I would call a recovering real estate investor. And so he likes to help real estate investors also build their wealth at the same time they're doing real estate. And he has a lot of really amazing programs that help people retire sooner with the income that they're generating from real estate. So I find that that's like a really nice compatible and add-on to what we do and what we teach people at the clubs.
Nice. Dan, who's been the most dynamic?
Well, I got two, I think. The first one, and the one I remember the best, is last November we had Matt and Craig from Stay Classy, San Diego. They run an ADU management company, and they provided so much information. We're so engaging and know the community so well because this is where they do all their investing. The meeting drug on. We had to get out of the space. We were asking people to leave. It was a fantastic meeting, and they absolutely crushed it. The other one was we have Patrick Keppel, who's our kind of local realtor who pushes everybody as hard as possible to invest in the San Diego area. And he's got it all figured out. And he gets super excited and jumps around and tells everybody his stories about it. This area is this and this is that, and really gets them pumped up. So it's pretty awesome.
That's cool. All right, everyone. That's going to do it for part 1 of our Investor Club Roundup Show, our 3rd edition. Be sure to tune in next week for part 2. Thanks.
For more information on hard money loans, trust deed investing, and upcoming events with the Norris Group, check out thenorrisgroup.com. For more information on passive investing through the DBL Capital Real Estate Investment Fund, please visit dblcapital.com.
The Norris Group originates and services loans in California and Florida under the California DRE license 01219911, Florida Mortgage Lender license 1577, and NMLS license 1623669. For more information on hard money lending, go to thenorrisgroup.com and click the Hard Money tab.